Listen carefully, because what I am about to tell you might sting, but it is the truth you need to hear. You are not broke because you do not earn enough money. You are broke because you spend like a rich person when you are not one. You are living a lifestyle that your future self cannot afford. And every single day you continue down this path. You are building a prison of your own making. In the next 10 minutes, I am going to show you the 5 things that are quietly stealing your wealth, destroying your future, and keeping you trapped in a cycle of paycheck to paycheck living. And more importantly, I am going to show you exactly what happens when you stop buying these things and redirect that money toward actual wealth building. The math I am about to show you will shock you, and it should. By the end of this video, you will understand why you feel broke, despite working hard, and you will have a clear roadmap to escape. But here is the catch. Understanding this information means nothing if you do not have the discipline to act on it. So ask yourself right now, are you ready to stop lying to yourself about your spending habits? Because financial freedom requires brutal honesty. Before we dive into the 5 wealth killers, you need to understand why you buy things you do not need in the first place. There is a famous quote that perfectly captures this insanity. We buy things we do not need, with money we don't have, to impress people we don't like. Think about that for a moment. How much of your spending is actually about improving your life versus signaling status to others? When you buy something new, your brain releases dopamine, the same chemical involved in addiction. You get a temporary high, a rush of satisfaction. But, just like any drug, the effect wears off quickly, and you need another hit. This is why you can buy something expensive on Monday and already be browsing for the next purchase by Friday. You are not satisfying a need. You are feeding an addiction to the feeling of acquisition. Psychologists call this hedonic adaptation. You adapt to your new normal incredibly quickly, which means that new car or designer handbag stops bringing you joy within weeks, but the payments last for years. You are trading years of financial stress for weeks of emotional satisfaction. That is a terrible trade, and yet millions of people make it every single day. The wealthy understand something that the broke do not. The difference between looking rich and being rich. Looking rich is easy. You can finance a luxury car, max out credit cards on designer clothes, and post it all on social media. Being rich, actually building wealth, requires doing the exact opposite. It requires invisibility, patience, and delayed gratification. Now, let us talk about the 5 things that are keeping you poor. Kevin O'Leary famously called this the latte factor, and he was absolutely right to call it out. Before you tell me that $5 does not matter, let me show you the math that will change your perspective forever. If you buy one $5 coffee every single workday, that is $25 per week, roughly $100 per month, and $1,200 per year. Now, most people also buy lunch out several times a week. Add another $15 for takeout lunch 3 times a week. And you are spending another $180 per month. Combined, you are spending $280 monthly, or $3,360 annually, on coffee and occasional lunches. Here is where it gets interesting. If instead of spending that money, you invested $300 per month into an S&P 500 index fund averaging 7% annual return, do you know what you would have after 40 years? You would have $798,000. Let me repeat that. Nearly $800,000 from giving up your daily coffee habit and packing lunch a few times a week. But you are not just giving up coffee. You are buying back your future. You are purchasing freedom. Every time you walk past that coffee shop and make your own coffee at home, you are making an investment in a future where you do not have to wake up to an alarm clock because you have financial independence. This is the wealth killer that destroys more financial futures than almost anything else. A new car loses approximately 20% of its value the moment you drive it off the lot. Not after a year, not after 6 months, immediately. By the end of year 1, that car has lost about 30% of its value. After 5 years, it is worth about 40% of what you paid. Let me make this crystal clear with an example. You buy a $40,000 new car with a 6-year loan at 5% interest. Your monthly payment is $643. Over 6 years, you will pay $46,300 for a car that is now worth maybe $15,000. You have lost $31,000 in value, plus you paid interest on money that evaporated. Now imagine, instead, you bought a 3-year-old version of the same car for $25,000. You have instantly saved $15,000. You finance it for 4 years instead of 6. Your payment is lower, and you invest the difference. After 10 years, the person who bought new and then repeated the cycle is still making payments. The person who bought, used, and invested the difference has over $100,000 in investments and owns their car outright. The wealthy do not drive brand new cars off the lot. They understand that cars are depreciating liabilities, not assets. They buy reliable used vehicles and invest the difference in actual assets that appreciate. There is a fundamental misunderstanding about wealth that keeps people trapped, and it plays out most visibly in fashion. Poor people wear logos to look rich. Rich people wear quality to look good. Wealthy people could not care less about either because they know their bank account speaks louder than their wardrobe. The average American spends roughly $160 per month on clothing, or nearly $2,000 per year. Much of this is fast fashion that falls apart after a dozen washes or trendy pieces that go out of style within months. You are essentially renting the appearance of wealth while actually ensuring you stay poor. Here is the better approach. Buy fewer, higher quality items that last years instead of months. A $200 pair of quality boots that lasts 10 years costs you $20 per year. 5 pairs of $40 boots that last 1 year each cost you $200 per year. The math is obvious, but people keep making the wrong choice because they cannot delay gratification long enough to save for quality. But let us talk about opportunity cost again. $2,000 per year invested at 7% for 30 years equals $200,000. You are quite literally wearing your retirement on your back, and it is losing value every single day. The American dream has become the American trap. We have been sold the idea that you need to buy the biggest house you can afford as soon as possible. This is terrible advice that makes banks rich and keeps you house poor. Being house poor means spending so much on your mortgage, property taxes, insurance, maintenance, utilities, and furnishing that you have nothing left to save or invest. The general rule is that your housing costs should not exceed 30% of your gross income. But I see people regularly spending 50% or more because they bought too much house too soon. Here is a scenario that plays out constantly. A young couple making a combined $100,000 per year buys a $400,000 house with a 30-year mortgage at 6%. Their monthly payment is about $2,400, plus property tax of $300, insurance of $150, and maintenance averaging $300 per month. Their housing costs are $3,150 monthly, or $37,800 annually. That is nearly 40% of their gross income before taxes. After taxes, they are taking home perhaps $70,000, meaning housing alone consumes 54% of their net income. They have no emergency fund, no retirement savings, and one unexpected expense away from credit card debt. Meanwhile, someone making the same income who rents a smaller place for $1,800 per month has an extra $1,350 monthly. If they invest that difference, after 15 years they have $360,000 in investments. At that point, they can buy a house with cash or a massive down payment, avoiding decades of interest payments. Renting is not throwing money away if you are investing the difference. Buying too much house too soon is the real wealth killer. This is the silent wealth killer, the death by 1,000 small cuts. The average household now has 12 paid subscriptions, costing approximately $273 per month, or $3,276 per year. But the real insanity is the tech upgrade cycle. Your old one still makes calls, sends texts, and runs apps. You are spending $1,200 for marginal improvements you will stop noticing within a week. Everything I have just told you points to one simple principle that will change your financial life: pay yourself first. This means that before you spend a single dollar on anything else, you invest in your future. The moment your paycheck hits your account, 20% goes directly into investment accounts. Not what is left over at the end of the month. There will never be anything left over. You automate this so it happens without requiring willpower. For most people starting out, this means opening a low-cost index fund account and setting up automatic monthly contributions. The S&P 500 has averaged about 10% annual returns over the long term, though I use 7% in my calculations to be conservative. This is not gambling or picking individual stocks. This is boring, consistent, long-term investing in the overall market. If you are 25 years old and you invest $500 per month until you are 65, averaging 7% returns, you will have $1,200,000. That is financial freedom. That is retirement on your terms. That is everything these 5 wealth killers are stealing from you right now. Here is my challenge to you, and it is going to be uncomfortable. Commit to a 30-day spending fast starting right now. For the next 30 days, you buy nothing except absolute necessities: food, shelter, basic transportation. No coffee shops, no restaurants, no new clothes, no subscriptions, no impulse purchases, nothing. Track every single dollar you save during these 30 days and watch that number grow.